Yo, dude, this is what if Kirito was more like. What? This is just gonna be called What If Kirito Was Slick. And in this, Kirito is basically like, if you've ever heard of 2GS Bootlegged, it's basically like Kirito Kazuto, Thugito the Second, and yeah, that entire series, which is, I think, Swagart Online? Yeah, Swagart Online, I think. Anyway, so he's more like that somewhat, as in he is kind of a rapper, and you see the chain on him, and the hats, and the shades. He has all of that in the game. Now you might be wondering, how is this going to change this series by anything? It might just sound stupid. No, it's going to be awesome if you're like me and want to see this. So Kirito, he has that whole thing when he gets into the game. The whole mirror thing happens, but in this version there's another thing. And the guy right before leaving said, "One of you is different than the rest. The one who is the strongest shall prevail." And then just straight disappears. Kirito, knowing that it's probably him because he has one item that he didn't have before. This item, actually he had 3 items. He didn't know what they were. And he just clicks on them and sees what they are. One's a chain. Sorry about that, guys. Another is shades. And the last one is a hat. And he noticed that these things seem to be permanently added onto his character, and he couldn't take them off. He can literally take literally everything else off but those. So he's like, whatever. And he just goes and he starts to grind, only it's a little different version. He notices his attacks are even stronger, and he can one-shot almost everything on the floor on floor 1. He could probably one-shot everything on floor 2 if he wanted to, but not the bosses. That would take a couple hits. But something different when it happens when they talk about the boss. That dude jumps down, and Kirito jumps down right before that, right after that other dude, and says, "Boy, if you don't get your dumb wannabe tough looking monkey acting ass out my face, I will knock you out." This dude just amazed someone had the guts to talk to him like that. Sorry about that, guys. Grabs his sword and goes to stab Kirito. Kirito just punches him with his fist, not even grabbing his sword. And now there's something that happens every single time he wins in something. You just start hearing like a boss, like a boss, like a boss, like a boss. That song that says like a boss. Yeah, you just hear that every time that he wins. So, in this version, Kirito just picks up. Sorry about that, guys. Kirito, they do the whole thing where they go to the boss's area, and here's how well that one goes. They talk about the whole thing, but they don't notice that Kirito is already level 10, which is the highest level among all of them. I'm gonna say all of them are level 5. Sorry about that, guys. I want to say they're all level 5s, but I'm not really sure. So I'm gonna say that, yeah, there are going to be level 5s, and that or maybe 2s. Yeah, they're all level 2s. That one dude who was a beta tester is level 3. The dude who died. In this version, Kirito jumps in front of him and straight catches he stops his attack with his sword, and just said, "Don't try one-shotting it. That's my job." And he just straight stabs once, and the thing's entire health bar depletes, as if he just got hit by the master of the game. And I'm going to say that other dude, the dude who made the game was watching the whole time, and was like completely confused on how is this kid this capable when all he's fought are, wait, what the heck? He's fought literally every monster. I'm going to say that they have a respawn rate, and Kirito just waits there for days on respawns. And in this version, that dude doesn't die. He becomes part of the team, which is going to be Kirito, that one dude, Klein, I think, and that in this version it's Kirito, that one dude, that big guy with the axe. I didn't remember his name. And that's about all for those 4 dudes, or the team of beasts, I guess you could say. And Kirito goes and he just leaves after obtaining that jacket. And that dude says, "You're a beta tester, aren't you?" And Kirito says, "Yeah, I was a beta tester. Sad thing is that I'm also the strongest person here. You're like 8 levels beneath me. Don't even try attacking." He says, "Oh, really?" He goes to attack Kirito. Kirito grabs his sword this time, and breaks it, and says, "I'm not even gonna pay for you to get a new sword later." And he goes up to floor 2 and starts just whamming down on every single monster. At this point, he's just gaining level after level. And then you skip a few floors, and yeah, they've learned where the bosses are. And Kirito, he's always being the one to defeat the boss. And I'm gonna say Asuna is more intrigued about him now, and she has this whole same thing happening. And Kirito, what was it? He meets all of them the same way as he did in canon. Basilica, I think? I forgot the name. Basilica just got kicked out. Kirito, being now level 80, that's why he was I forgot what level he was, but I think it wasn't as high. He straight up just says, "Okay, come on. I'll get you there." In a sense of, he didn't really want to do it in the beginning, but then he does. And this is after that whole thing. That was after his entire team got killed. But here's how well that works out. Kirito steps in and starts slicing all these monsters to pieces. And none of those guys got hurt. A couple of them lost half their health. But Kirito was the one that didn't lose any health. They asked what his level was. He had told them it was 20. It's actually, in canon, it was 40. But in this version, it's 60. He tells them it's 60, and they're just amazed that someone's already that high level. They ask who's the highest level in the game. I'm going to say there's a board to show who the highest level in the game, what their level is, and what their weapons are. And even their abilities. Although the board is very, very difficult to get to, because it's straight up just very difficult to get to. I mean, it's not that hard to get to, it's just very hard to see, being that there's, like, so many people standing at it, like, all the time. And Kirito, they notice that Kirito's, like, 50, like, so many levels above everyone else. Sorry about that, guys. Level 20 is actually the average. Level 30 is, like, super above average. And 40s are almost there's only a couple 40s. And then there's Kirito at level 50. And they notice that Kirito, and when that whole thing about her needing to go to that whole area happens, same thing happens. That they get attacked in that one area, and instead of them all dying, Kirito straight just tanks all the blows with his health being regened faster than any of them can actually injure him. He says, "Everyone, get behind me." Like, how? There's only one of you. And Kirito uses a skill called multiple body. This skill is basically just making there be multiple of you that would basically surround someone, in a sense that you're surrounding them as basically a meat shield. But Kirito is so high level that every hit that they dish out It just is like nothing to him. And they all charge up their attacks, and he tells them all to go for one of them and then get back into the circle. They all do, and this happens repetitively until Kirito just says, okay, we've got half of them down, so Kirito starts just slicing them all to pieces. And there was one that goes to throw an attack, Kirito steps in, gets cut, and then stabs it. And he heals from this cut in like 2 seconds. So he just straight up looks at them all saying, to be honest, I'm level 50. And they're just like, what? They're all confused and stuff. I'm gonna say there isn't actually a board, but like there is one for the creator. But he's the only one who has it, and if he wants someone to see it, they can, but no one else could. And then the whole Basilica thing happens. She wants to get that whole, her little dragon dies, and Kirito just straight up saves her, and then he just straight up just uses his technique called like a boss and asks her what's wrong and if she lost something. She tells Kirito about what happened, and Kirito's like, okay, there's a place, it can revive from them, and it only works after 3 days. She thinks that it won't be possible. Kirito said, I can get you there if you want. She said, really? How? Kirito said, I'm the highest level in the game. And at that point is where normals were 45, some people were 45. He's already 85. So Kirito, he sees them attack. They go to attack him in the group of 7 45s. 7 level 45s. Sorry about that. And those 7 level 45s all get demolished by Kirito throwing a single swing. Not even swinging, he just straight up stands there the whole time. While all of them are swinging a sword at him, he's just like sitting there. And he's just wondering how he should do this. And they all throw their attacks, even that other chick. I'm gonna say she's level 50. They all throw that attack at once. All 8 of them are throwing attacks after attack after attack, and Kirito is just unfazed. When all their attacks hit, they'll bring him down to a very scratch of health, but that it heals before anything else happens. In other words, he's healing faster than they can injure him. And he absolutely starts just going ham with bare hands, doesn't even pull a sword out, and he just wrecks them all barehanded. And he tells her to use that whole familiar thing there, and she actually says, okay. She does that, and her healing dragon appears, and Kirito said, it's a really useful dragon. We should actually team up together with it to some time. And she said, really? And he said, yeah. And now he's actually got friends in his whole friend chat thing. So Kirito then goes to that whole save that blacksmith girl. And what she does is something that she still needs that certain metal. Kirito walks in the shop, breaks the sword like in canon, pays for it, but there has to be something exchanged for every cost and everything. Kirito saying he can't really pay for something that's been broken, that it's technically impossible in the game, and he asked if there's anything else he could do, and she said, well, she has something called a teleport stone, and he says, okay, how much would it be for one of those? And she adds the prices up, saying that much, but it was this much before you broke my sword. He said, okay, and he pays for it, and then he just straight up just doesn't need it. And the teleport stone basically just teleports him to floor 1. That's all it does, is if you're about to die, you can just teleport, and it'll teleport you and your entire team into floor 1. Kirito then proceeds to pick up that same, gets the same sword and practice his attacks with it. And he's more just open about dual wielding since he just doesn't care. And people see him with two swords on his back, they're just like, wow, dual wielders. Dual wielder. And all of them try seeing if they can hold two swords, but they can't. They tried picking up two different swords, but when they do, it just won't work for a fight. They don't deal damage with one of them. The other one deals the same damage as normal. So they just think, this is useless. Why is he dual wielding? He won't deal any damage. And they see that he deals damage with both swords. And then that whole thing where... Wow, I added another person not being dead in this version, so... Kirito's team of that dude with the axe, Kirito, Klein, and that dude with blue hair, they're all going and doing and fighting on the top floors and destroying things, but they don't need to. They notice that they're living fine in the game. But they still know they need to win. Sorry about that, guys. I'm pretty tired. Anyway, a little bit later, Kirito has the whole thing where he doesn't work and he just sits there with Asuna, and they find Yui, and Kirito, he doesn't stop training. There's big sea monsters that will still attack. He doesn't care though, so he just starts working his way up in the water. He doesn't even use his swords. He just goes in the water, fights underwater, and gets basically water immunity. And they notice that Kirito is unbelievably strong, so they just roll with that. They notice that he's physically strong enough to attack. His attacks are stronger than most of the heavy giant swords wielders and axe wielders and all that, which are supposed to be the heavy attackers. And he's got more defense than all of the shielders seem to have. They bring out the best from each team, even archery, and they notice that he just picks up his little needle, and he just throws that to kill animals. The same thing happens where he goes to Asuna's place. The same way, and that dude still attacks the same way as in canon, but Kirito straight just knocks him around like he is nothing. And then and then that whole thing where they meet the old man and they go fishing happens. And then the final part where they fight that big minotaur looking thing. Kirito just straight up walks in like he ain't care at all. So he just is ready for the fight. He pulls both swords and says, "A big guy. Surprise!" And starts slicing the thing apart with no casualties. Sorry about that, guys. Anyway, Kirito is on the level of, like, above human. Like, he's above everyone else, and they're wondering how. And the creator of the game still duels with Kirito, and Kirito knows that he's supposed to be the highest level in the game, but then he saw someone leveling up really fat. Then he could he could not really feel it, but like another person was leveled up. People always said he was the highest level they'd ever seen, but this dude apparently was the same level as him. He didn't think that would work, and he doesn't even have a guild. Actually, he does, but it's not really used. He could make a guild, he just doesn't want to. So he just keeps doing that whole thing, and he gets in that duel, and everyone keeps going to it, like in canon, but in this version, Kirito, he just gets his swords out ready for a fight, and that dude still does that whole thing of cheating, and he even makes himself invincible. Kirito ain't having none of that, so he just starts wailing on the dude. And people say his health isn't going down at all, and he's not shielding. How is this possible? And Kirito winds up breaking the shield. If you're wondering how, it's with brute force, and he is invincible, the objects in his hands are not. So, eventually, Kirito is able to break the shield, and then this dude re-equips with another shield, and keeps blocking. Kirito just uses that whole same dual sword thing, and eventually Kirito loses because he keeps fighting for the whole time, while this dude is using special hacks to make himself faster than Kirito and all that. He keeps making himself higher leveled. And Kirito, he trained on how to fight people stronger than him, but he doesn't have to ever do it, so yeah. Kirito is basically breezing through this game with not much consequence to him because he's basically unstoppable. And he knows a lot more about his abilities with games, and he's still a super genius, so he's pretty much unstoppable. And then he loses that duel and winds up joining that whole group, and he says, "Do I have to wear white and red? White and red is not a good color on me." They said it looks good on him. He says, "No, it don't," and he just wants to get out of it and get back to his black clothes. And they notice that no matter what they do, the chain, the hat, and the shades stay on him. And they think it looks, and they all say, "Dude, you look like you're trying to be a rapper." He says, "No, but I could be." And he's basically unstoppable at that point, so no one's ever gonna challenge him to a duel. There is that group that Kirito saved. The captain is part of the team of Kirito and and the other dudes. Now, Kirito basically still has a harem with Asuna and the other girls. And I'll put up a picture of something funny I think that I found. Give me a second. I think this is hilarious. And they all try pulling that, but at this point, there's another one there. That one girl, I think Sanji or something, that Kirito saved. And they all tried pulling this exact same stunt. But this is later, so okay, I'm back, and that was a funny picture. So I'm gonna get to this. And Kirito, they do that whole thing about floor 75, and Kirito just straight up blitzes past, and the attack side do the same way as in canon. And he knows that the dude's invincible. And he says, "I knew you were doing that." And he says, "You're Akuto Kayaba." He says, "You're right." And they get into a duel thing, and Kirito, it goes a little different. Kirito absolutely starts wrecking him, so he's not doing any cheats. So Kirito's absolutely destroying him. And then Kirito's got 1 HP left, and he does as well. And Austin Shape comes in clutch with the swing of a blade. With the swing of her sword, which they thought it shouldn't have been possible, but it was, since the paralysis stuff works as it just makes it where it's painful to move. For any of them, they could have moved, it just was lowering their HP if they moved. And they were all at max health. So you have this entire squad that came right after that door opens, which was after the boss was defeated. They say congratulations, and Kirito Shape comes right from behind. And that entire squad of Kirito that he saved, they weren't on the front lines. But they had leveled up a lot. So did the entire team. So did both of those girls. The small one with the little dragon. And that other one that had the weird other thing. I'm not even sure what it was. The other, the girl who was the blacksmith. They all kept training their abilities, and Kirito is the one that no one messes with because he's the highest level. So Kirito absolutely wrecks him, and I'm gonna say they were both about to die, but instead of getting fried, Kirito Trip just stabs him first, and they both about die at the same time, but she came in clutch with that swing, but he blocked her with his shield, which gave Kirito enough time to swing with a sword, which this dude blocks with a sword, and then Kirito has another sword and stabs the dude. So they basically together used the three sword style to basically beat the shield, beat the sword, and beat the guy. And then Kirito asks why he did it. And he just says he doesn't remember. After all that time, he doesn't remember. And Kirito says it's a really dumb reason, but still. Whatever. He notices that she's still stuck in the game, and he just pops his neck and just walks back up to his game system and gets back into another game. That whole flying one where he met the flying elf thing. He has the same weird glitch thing happen to him. But in this version, all of his gear, his clothes, and everything were transferred. So this world's in for a world of hurt because he's the strongest leveled up person. And he still has, and I'm going to say that the creator had actually given Kirito the password and everything to his account, which was, in other words, the cheat account, which had the ability to copy anyone's account, but add cheats if he wanted it. That's how Kirito got the hat, the shades, and the chain. So they notice that this dude looks like he's off trying to be a rapper, but he notices that the only thing he has left are the shades. The other thing, the hat and everything, didn't transfer. So he winds up just looking like this now. He just has shades. And I'm going to say that Kirito knows how to, win the fight. So when those guys attack him, he already understood how to fly without the whole help. So he just uses his OP ability to destroy them. He took two of them down with the flame, waited for the flame to burn out, and then just said, "Who are they?" And this was with him with no good gear. He didn't equip any of his powerful gear, his powerful clothes, or anything. Just with his base abilities. It showed him to be level 1 in the game, but he was already equivalent to a level 99 in the game. If you want to know what the max level is, it's 100, but the only reason no one ever reached 100 was because, well, Kirito was actually 2 XP away, so when he killed the final boss, he got level 100, so he's as strong as a level 100, so he's max leveled, and also at level 1 at the same time, since he basically did a rebirth thing from Roblox, and got all the powers he had before, but with the exact thing where he's just as strong as he was, but with a whole another realm that he has to level up in. So his flight time is still 10 minutes like everyone else. And Kirito makes it as good as he can, and he flies with his sister, technically, his cousin, I think, yeah, cousin. And because Kirito, she's known as Lifa, and he doesn't know who she is. He had started his training with his physical body again. He still can do any fighting he wants, but he chose swordsmanship, and boxing to be his primary fighting styles. And she notices that Kirito in the game has a lot of resemblance to Kirito in real life. Kazuto Kigaya or something, I don't know. I think that was his name. Anyway, Kirito, he's strong, but he's not invincible. So they think that it's crazy, but he might be unstoppable. Which he does the same kind of thing as in canon. They all start being rude to the fact he's a dark kind of thing where he has the black wings and all that. He says, "Hey, shut up. I just chose Spriggan because it was good." And they said, "How was it good?" He said, "Because I had nothing else to choose, so I chose this." They leave, and in this version, when they get to the whole meeting and the whole army is there, Kirito pops his neck and said, "Listen up. Either you can come down here and die, or you can go away. Your choice." They said, "There's like 100 of us and like one of you. What are you gonna do?" He said, "Cut you all to ribbons." This scares all of them, and they're just like, "Nope, not happening, and not dealing with that." And just straight up, some of them attacked him, but the leader had attacked him first. And Kirito just catches his sword, just straight up says, "Okay." And the way that sword works is it warps through one defense and will hit the person, but Kirito had at this point didn't re-equip his swords, but he re-equipped his jacket and all that. And Yui was still with him as that weird like thing that she was. So Kirito, he knew he was like the strongest one there, so he didn't really care much. So that dude still attacks him, and Kirito says, "Why don't we make this a little more interesting?" He says, "What do you mean?" "Well, I'm the one who took down the boss in Sword Art Online. Why don't I take down you as well?" And he's like, "What? You were in Sword Art Online? But that was 2 years. They barely got out of that." He said, "Yeah, and I'm back in the gaming world." "What? How are you not scarred from that?" He said, "I am. It really sucked. I was always the strongest." "What? What? What do you mean?" Kirito said, "I was the highest level. I was unstoppable. But I never got a challenge. Except for the creator himself using hacks trying to beat me." This dude was astonished that one person had to deal with that. And Kirito just draws his sword, and they still have the whole fight, but in this version, Kirito just says, "Okay." He grabs his other two swords, and he just doesn't use them. He just says, "I got these three on my back. Should I use my giant one, my two small ones? Your choice." And he says, "Use whichever ones you like. Which are the best?" And Kirito says, "This is the strongest swords. These two are stronger, but this one's a good two-handed one." Saying, "Do whatever you want." And then Kirito grabs a dagger. A tiny little dagger. And draws the giant sword, saying, "Okay, I can beat you with these base level weapons." And this dude attacks him and he just straight tries blocking with both swords, which was warped through the big sword, and then the dagger caught it, and he just straight like whooping this dude, and he just puts his weapons away and starts grabbing his dual swords, and just goes ham on this guy. And he just used the whole smoke thing, and he made a giant minotaur thing that he had already killed, and he started grabbing and swinging people around like they weren't nothing. He turned that entire army into nothing but a couple of flames. And when Kirito was done with this fight, the leader of that whole thing had attacked him, and there was only this dude had 1 HP left. Kirito had full HP, not even one scratch on him. So he grabs his little tiny dagger and says, "Come on." This dude swings, Kirito hits him first with the dagger before this dude's sword can hit him. So this dude dies, and he just says, "Sorry about that." He says, "That was a good warm-up, so where's the real leader?" In fear, this dude's like, "What?" And they call upon getting that other dude. They use that same magic-y stuff, and Kirito says, "I've got to learn how to do that better." And they asked him how he was able to do that, and he grabs a giant pouch of coins from all the monsters he's slain, since he's already about level 50 in this game too. So he's equivalent to a level 150. In other words, he's max level plus half the max level. So he's basically unstoppable. He walks into that whole thing that he does in canon, gets to that tree, he starts destroying every one of those things, and he has the same thing happen to him that happened in canon. He loses, but they revive him. He wonders how he lost, and they say there was over 1,000 of them, and you didn't have a key, so you were fighting them off. And that key thing dropped, and he said, "Now I do." And he fights them off, and actually in this version he destroys them all. And he's more focused on destroying them all in this version. Gets up there the same way he did in canon. Gets that assistant. And he gets up there and he goes into a 1v1 against that dude. Dude pulls Excalibur out and tries fighting with that. Kirito pulls his old swords out and his gear up. And he notices that the hat and the chain appear. And he's like, oh yeah. And this dude's like, no. And he goes to attack Kirito, and Kirito straight just chops him to little pieces repetitively, and he had turned this dude's pain feeling to everything he took, he would feel. And at that point, Kirito, he basically makes this dude a blubbering mess, and then they meet in real life. Dude pulls a knife out and trying to stab Kirito. Kirito lectures him about how it's a weak weapon, and grabs the knife, breaks the dude's arm, and just grabbed him with the knife and just shing. He doesn't kill him, but he beat him to a bloody little pulp. And he told the hospital that he's there with his knife. And they noticed that he bought it, and there was blood of both him and Kirito there. And Kirito's blood was dry already, and this dude's was fresh, so they said that, dude, you attacked someone. I'm gonna say there was security cameras, so they saw what happened, Kirito being attacked and him defending himself. And then he goes talking to Asuna, who's now woken up. And, oh man, is he tired. Then he gets the whole thing where he goes to school for a while. Then Gale Online happens. The whole death gun thing. Kirito goes in there. He has all of his gear. All of it. Every single piece. And instead of going with that whole place they want him to go to, he does that, but he signs into his account. Which, they try getting him to sign into a different account. He says, nah, I'm signing into my account. No one defeats me in my account. Kirito looks just like he does in canon. I mean, just like he does in this picture. And he notices that every time he gets there, all he keeps is the shades. And now, he can't even find the hat. Or the chain. So he just says, whatever. So, I mean, he doesn't really equip the shades unless he wants to use his like a boss. Basically, it's like this. My swag switch has no off position. That's basically his personality. In a nutshell. And Kirito, he's now just wrecking that entire team of Death Gun. He destroys Death Gun by kicking him out of the game by repetitively stabbing him until he died. They got into the same match, he meets the same person, and he teaches her that being afraid of things in real life is something you shouldn't do. She had the whole thing where she stopped that people with a gun and took the gun from them. This version, Kirito saw it, and he just said, no, you don't want to be pulling guns on people, do you? And they just said, how'd you get there? He said, because I'm faster than speed of light. They're all just dumbfounded by Kirito saying he's faster than speed of light. They say, oh really? And the other two grab a gun and start shooting at Kirito for one reason or another. Now, I know they aren't real guns, but still it's stupid to point guns and shoot at people. So Kirito just de-arms them both and hits them right in the face. And he walks away after that. And Kirito knows how to use guns a lot better than they do because he's a master at almost everything he does. And he's already smart enough to be in past college, but he doesn't, since he just doesn't want to. Anyway, Kirito grabs that whole thing how someone was doing the whole thing in canon. He straight walks in and kicks the dude around like he's a rag doll. When he tried doing the whole thing, Kirito had said, "You're too weak to challenge me, so don't." This dude said, "Oh, really?" And goes to attack Kirito. It doesn't work. And Kirito just keeps repetitively stomping his head in the ground until he ain't moving. And Kirito then just proceeds to just call the cops and tells them about what's happening, and everyone hears that Kirito's a savior in the game and in real life. He saved thousands of people in the game and a couple and 300 in another game, and a ton of people in real life. He's already saved so many people, and they basically get him called a living hero. So Kirito, he basically does what he thinks works best. Yeah. This looks cool to me. So yeah. Yeah. So Kirito then proceeds to have that whole thing happen in games and all that. And then they all meet up in another game, and here's what it looks like. And that other girl was there too, so he's got 6 girls doing this exact same thing. And his first reaction is, run, man, run. So he basically just dips, and right before, and he knows that one of them is like a room away from him, so he knows how to outrun them, so he says, okay, and then just signs off real fast, and then just straight takes off his nerve gear, and runs, grabs a bike, and rides for his 20 minutes. They tried catching him, didn't work. I'm gonna say that Asuna has a car or something. So she tries driving and grabbing him. He's faster than a car on a bike with his physical ability, since he's already trained his physical ability too. And they all try finding him, and Kirito's like, nope. And he's running the whole time. And this chick with the blue hair is, just as she says in canon, mad. So Kirito just straight up says, man, I got nowhere to go. I'm gonna die if I don't run. And Kirito basically keeps running, and he joins a game, thinking that no one's gonna find him. And he is true. He's right. The boys are there, and they're gonna wake him up if anything happens. And one of them are like able to be logged in real quick. And basically, the others will keep watch while that one dude is logged in. And this one dude logs in saying, Kirito, they're here. And he'll just undo his nerve gear and just dip. Which, mind you, Kirito's fast, so he can run. And basically, he does the break someone's ankles things every day. And no one can really stop him. So he runs, and here's what the first thing that happens is. It doesn't work out very well. He gets hit in the back. He says, oh man, I forgot they could run. And he keeps running as fast as he could, and gets on his bike and rides, but he found out that someone popped his tires, so he just starts running. Wondering who popped his tires. The girls had like a knife or something, and stabbed the tire so he couldn't escape. So he's like, man, that was my favorite tires and bike. So he's just running with his bike on his back. And they're just like, okay, how is he running this fast with a bike on his back? That shouldn't be possible. He keeps running and he gets to his house. He jumps into his room, locks the door with a couple different locks to where no one can get in unless he wants them in. Has an entire mini fridge and everything in there. He's like, I'm a dead man, I'm a dead man, I'm a dead man. He fixed his bike up, but they're all right outside of his door. Give me a second. Okay, dudes and dudettes. Sorry, I had something I needed to do. So, yeah, his exact thing he wants to do is run, and he keeps running. But remember, he had gotten to his room, so he had been hiding in his room while he fixed his bike up, and they actually knew every exit. So there was a couple. I'm gonna say that the one with pink hair and Asuna, both of them go outside to see right outside of Kirito's window. He's like, oh no no, and the other three are right outside. There's actually no. Scratch that. The little one goes with them, and the other three are right outside Kirito's door, and he's just like, no no no, and he knows there's only three ways he's getting out of this. Number one, looks at all of them and gets hurt. Number two, signs into the game, and they possibly rip the thing off his head, which might kill him. Number three, escapes via the private escape that he made himself. He chooses number three. So he fixed his bike up and grabbed a backpack, filled it with anything he'd need, food, water, because he thinks he'll be on the run for a while. So he runs, and about 3 months later, they find him in the virtual world, and he's just like, oh no. And he starts running, and here's exactly how that goes for him. Get back here, and he signs out, and he just sees something that he wasn't expecting. There's a couple people standing next to him. He turns his head, and it's their friends. So anyway, he sees that it's their friends, and he thinks that he's going to be in big trouble. But they say, we'll help you hide, because they're mad. Kirito knows that his physical speed would be more than enough, but he knows that it's also probably not going to work out for him because he can't run forever. So he sets them all down in his room and he talks to them for a minute. And I'm going to say he goes into they all go into the virtual world with him. So he just talks to them all and says, we're out of luck. And saying he's out of luck, isn't he? And they said yes. They all go and pull their swords, and he says, "Do you really want to try me with swords? Do you really think that's going to even affect me?" They said they don't know, and the other one pulls a gun, just like, "Oh, hold up!" She pulls on the Glock, and Kirito pulls out a pistol and saying, "Guns are also my specialty." She's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot that. You can use pistols and knives, as if they're normal to him." Sorry about that. And anyway, like I was saying, and Kirito knows how to, like, escape from most bad situations, and he can log out pretty fast, but he knows the second he does, they're all going to log out. And they're all going to be enraged that he logged out so fast and tried escaping. So that's what they think he's going to do. But he logs out, they all log out, and they see him on one knee. He actually asks if they would yada yada yada, all the whole thing. And they say yes, and they were wondering how would they share him, and he said, you could share me, but I'm not sure if that's a good option for y'all. They said, yes it is, and he says, sweet. So I'm gonna do my thing. And he starts training his abilities with swords. If you're wondering if he even needs to train his abilities, I'm talking about real life swordplay. So yeah, he also trains with guns and hand-to-hand. in case he gets attacked with someone by a knife, by someone with a knife, in case if someone with a gun threatens him, or if someone tries beating him up, which there is going to be that happening. These three dudes who were jealous of Kirito, who I'm going to say had crushes on these girls, these three walk up and try fighting Kirito. One punches him in the face. Another one pulls a knife at him, and he has to dodge it while it cuts his arm. The other dude pulls a gun and shoots, and winds up grazing his shoulder. He's like, "Hold on, guys, what are y'all doing?" And they all get ready for another thing. And Kirito knows that they're just wanting his life, so he's going to move. So he keeps moving around, and he straight up just jumps off a wall and kicks the dude with the gun's hand, and sends his gun out of his hand, and it slides on the floor. And he straight up just had done that and punched the dude. I'm gonna say due to momentum, he had another kick ready. So it was a backwards kick until he did another one where he basically pushed off the dude's shoulder for another force and then kicked at him again. So here's what the final thing was. After he did all that, they think he's crazy. So that was off the dude with the gun only. And Kirito just straight up moves around the other dude. And he straight up just de-arms the dude with the knife and breaks his arm and his shoulder. And punches him in the face to knock him out. The knife hits right next to the gun. And then the final thing is the dude with the fist. He tries punching Kirito, and he punches Kirito in the face. Kirito saying, "You're too weak." Punch after punch after punch. Kirito gets instantly knocked back by the fact that he's taken 3 punches without even moving. If you're wondering why he hasn't moved, I'm going to say that he was being held back by something. If you're wondering what could possibly be holding him back, weights. He's doing weight training. Weights. He's going on a run with weights on his arms and legs, wrist weights and leg weight and ankle weights, and a weighted vest. He's wearing all of this, and he is running. He was going on a run, so he was already tired. So, yeah, if you're wondering how he's doing all this athletic stuff, he's able to kick off the leg weights by going down on one knee and just ripping them off. But the way he did that, it was when he was in air, he took them off and just threw them to the floor. And the punches he's taking, so he tries doing the same, and he does the same thing with the arm ones while getting punched. One of them falls off, and he just pops his hand, and it's just like, oh no. Drops the other one. Hold up. And then, sorry about that, guys. My hand slipped. Anyway, he drops the other, hand weight. The dude notices that they're like 40 pounds, each of them. And then Kirito throws his hoodie off, which he's wearing a hoodie. And this dude sees a weighted vest that looks like it weighs more than he does. And he throws it off, and it just makes a boom sound because of how heavy it was. It was 300 pounds. And then Kirito straight up pops his neck and saying, "Let's go." And he throws a single punch at this dude and sends him flying. So he doesn't really care, but when he had done that punch and the dude flying back, these 3 dudes got knocked out completely, and he called the cops about him being attacked by 3 dudes. I'm gonna say there was camera footage, but all it caught was them shooting at him and him beating them down, which was basically all the fight that happened. And they asked how he did that, and he said, well, he is trained in martial arts, and they asked him one thing: were you prepared to fight for your life? And he said, that's what I did. I knocked him out. They said, what if they wouldn't get knocked out? He said, then I would have dipped. They said, what? How come you didn't? He said, one of them had a gun, another had a knife, and the other guy was barehanded, so I figured take the guy with the most long-range weapon out first, and then I could probably run, but then the dude with the knife tried stabbing me and managed to graze me, so I hit him. Okay, why does it show you throwing things off? What is that? He said, my weights, my wrist weights, and my ankle weights, and that is my hoodie and my vest. He throws his hoodie back on, He doesn't have his hoodie on yet, and he hasn't even put on any of his weights. They're all in a pile, and they ask how he did it. Because that shouldn't have been humanly possible with all the weight on him. How he could jump with that height and do a spin kick with that much momentum delivered. And he says, well, I got something I need to train for. And then I'm going to say that he was meeting up with the girls when this happened, so they all basically had a tracker installed on Kirito's phone. So all they do is look it up, and they see Kirito's location, they ask what happened. They get shown the footage, and Kirito is just like, yeah, that happened. And they were speaking about how, and those guys were speaking about how they had crushes on them and all that. Sorry about that. And I'm going to say that Kirito's friends were ready for a fight, but they didn't do one since they had met up with Kirito a little bit earlier and saw that these dudes were following Kirito, and they just said, hey, Kirito, might want to watch out for these guys. Kirito's like, I know. I'm going to say Kirito, while he was putting his jacket back up, the police saw that he had a gun and knife in his pocket. They asked why he chose to go barehanded when he had two things that he had. And Kirito says, because I didn't want to hurt people that were that weak. And they were just astonished, since this dude was kind and, without a doubt, caring, but he was also a beast. So Kirito just ends up saying, okay. He leaves, and he lives a good life, and I haven't watched any other part of SAO, so sorry if there's anything else that happens that's important, but I don't know. So, peace out. Slick what ifs? Bye. Slick King out.